Welcome to The Problem, a Lockwood and Co podcast. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Alan.
And today we are discussing part 1 of The Empty Grave, the last book in the series. So very soon, you will never hear from us ever again.
Right after we're done, they're going to start the second season, and we'll just roll straight into that. That's why we've been taking our time.
See, my joke was there's never going to be any more.
No.
So we're going to be done after this.
It's terrible.
When I was taking my notes on these chapters, I got a new pen during Christmas, which sounds lame, but I was really excited for this new pen. And in my day-to-day life, I don't have many opportunities to use a pen. So
yeah, who writes things down anymore?
Yeah, exactly. I was really excited to take notes with this pen, but it does not mix well with my translucent Post-its.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I took one note, and now there's a smudge on the opposite page.
Oh. You just very slowly read and allow it to dry.
Throw sand on it like they used
to. Right. Why is my
book
all sandy?
Yeah, that wouldn't ruin the book at all. Anyways, Lockwood and Co.
That's why I was waiting for the anyways. Now everything is back to how it should be.
Chapter 1. Lockwood and Co. illegally breach the National Shrine of Marissa Fitz's tomb. And I had no memory of anything that happened in this, specifically in this one, in chapter 1. I remembered everything in chapter 2 and 3. But so when I was looking at the art, I was like, I have no fucking idea what this is.
Right. Because it's a hole that's surrounded by coiled ropes.
Yeah. In my head, the chapter start, in my bad memory, the chapter started with them walking down the staircase looking for traps. So when I saw this, I was like, it's a hole with ropes. Why? What? And obviously I understood once I read the chapter what it was. Do you want to do your art spiel?
Oh yeah, I looked up, we were on the new book and I happened to look at the copyright page and it had the name of the artist who makes, all the pictures, Kate Adams. And I think we've mentioned her before, but I never looked up her art or anything. And so I was just went to her website and found out that the entire way that she does art is this thing called scratchboard, where it's a layer of white clay on the canvas or whatever. And then it has black ink that's been printed over it. And then she just scrapes away the black to create the picture. And so that's why the pictures look like they do.
Which makes me feel a little bit bad about how much we've complained about the blurriness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting process. She has lots of videos of how painstaking it is and the tools she uses and stuff. It's really cool. But yeah, we do complain a lot.
But that is also, the complaining is something we've done to ourselves. We don't need to try to guess or to try to look at these. We could skip over the art is what I'm saying.
It's true.
But we have chosen not to.
It's crazy when you look at this picture and think that the whole thing was black once. You can really tell that this is a flagstone, situation with the
now that I know what it
down
is.
And everything. Yeah. So it's impressive.
Yeah. I am no artist, so I'm always impressed by people who can do the art.
Anybody who does the thing that I can do, I am not impressed by. I don't care about that. That seems to be what you're saying.
Yeah, that's... But to be fair, I can't really do much.
Oh, okay. Everyone's amazing.
I will say, I listened to one podcast where the guy sort of jokingly is always saying that it's the best edited podcast in the world. And I'm like, that's not really... Who cares? I don't care about that. So you're not wrong. I'm in no way saying that ours is the best edited. I think we choose not to put that much effort into it.
Yeah.
So it's not a secret to me. Same thing when I see plays. I will admit I'm always that person who's like, okay, so they must have done that like this and da 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 and blah blah blah. Oh, and that's interesting and yeah.
Yeah, the worst thing is knowing how it all works.
Although then you're doubly impressed when you can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, I saw Mary Poppins on stage one time, and the guy who played the chimney sweep was straight up, like, he was tap dancing on stage, and then he walked up the wall on the side of the stage and tap dancing still, and then to the ceiling and was tap dancing upside down. And I genuinely don't know how you do that.
Huh. It's good that Spider-Man's getting work, though. Like,
yeah, exactly.
In his spare time.
Like, I know how wires work and blah, 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 to a degree. But, like, I couldn't figure that one out.
Upside down is cool, yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that he, like, transitioned on stage. Like, if he had come in upside down, that makes sense to me. But, anyways, nobody cares about this. Our first paragraph here is just Lucy being Lucy.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, we get our introduction. Do you want to hear a ghost story? It's fun. It's like creepy in a kid's book's way. In a kid's book way. I do
all
like
these cases we don't know about.
Yeah. Just things that happened in the background. My favorite, of course, being the evil swan that followed her home. Maybe no ghost was involved in that one. I do wonder if swans, because I do think there are more swans in England, especially in London, in the parks and stuff, than there are here. So I wonder if swans are like the England's version of geeses.
Oh, that's true. Now that you say that, that's right.
Right? Because if an
if
an angry goose followed me home, I too would be really like that would be bad.
She brings us back into the story of like there's all these adventures, but the thing that we're doing is the famous thing that established the like Lockwood and Co, the National Archives, Lockwood Gallery is something that she drops on us. Like, you know about the gallery, you know about our famous case and how we broke everything wide open. And you're like, wait a minute, no, what? So there's a little bit of like looking backwards at the beginning of this book that it's kind of written to be like a tell-all kind of situation of like, here's the secrets you don't know about.
I like the way that it's worded because it does kind of imply that Lockwood doesn't make it.
Yeah. I think that possibility is wide open. There's like a lot of tension around that idea throughout the book.
Yeah. But just before that, she also says something about, she says they represent a typical month's work for Lockwood & Co. during that long and desperate summer. And I thought that was an interesting line after we just had a couple books during the dark winter or whatever it was called. So just like there are no good seasons. Right? Like
the summers are long and desperate.
Right now. They just keep naming the season something terrible.
It is the passage of time to those. So we know like it's probably the summer after the winter. This doesn't seem like it's more than a year later.
Yeah. Oh, and like the next paragraph, she says something like, here's me 2 months ago. So the looking back is 2 months after all this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that it's not that far away, but she's writing about it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the book, I would say the book in general doesn't feel like it's looking back the whole time. We just get this glimpse in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I do think that it is partially setting up the idea that Lockwood maybe doesn't survive, like you said. But also it does tell you that like, hey, we win. Like there is kind of like a triumph to this whole book, like a sense of triumph.
Yeah, they wouldn't be naming anything after Lockwood if they didn't like him.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Whether he was dead or alive. Since it's the Lockwood Gallery in the National Archives, like George must be pissed. Right? Like, how dare he?
You know, he would get like a library named after him and that might be better or something for him.
But
so in the long run.
I hope so. Yeah, so then but I brought up the 2 months thing because we've talked in previous books about how, like, when do we think Lucy is telling this story from? Because there is always kind of glimpses of this looking back. And I wonder if that's what it is. If it's this 2 months after the end game here, Lucy.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
And that she's writing down all 5 books.
Right, yeah. the whole series. Yeah.
Which works because we've always said that she still sounds very teenage.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, we get a short description of Lucy, which is just she looks the way she always, or she's wearing what she always wears, blah, 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 except her hair has recently turned white, or bits of it have.
Yeah. The side effects of being on the other side.
Yes, I don't think it comes up here, but we do find out later that this has also happened to Lockwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I really only point this out because it's like, it happened in another children's series, in a similar time where the two main characters ended up with a bunch of white hair, and now it's become like a thing.
Oh, I thought that this kind of like also answers the question of why, like, we're complaining about like Marissa Fitz is like really, really old before her time. Why is that? But like, given everything that we find out about how much she's on the other side in this book, and
oh yeah, absolutely,
it kind of answers that question.
That it affects you physically that way. Yeah. 100%.
Yes. So we find out they're at the memorial grave of Marissa Fitz, but they're like on the outside of it. Right.
Yes. They're in like the upper chamber or whatever. Cause they're inside. Cause there's guards.
Oh, right.
outside.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
They're in
There's
like an
a
upper
building.
chamber, and they're trying to find a trapdoor to go down to where the coffin is. Now, this is like a tourist attraction, but the worst one ever, I guess, because you just walk in, see an empty room, and then you walk out. Like, what? Yeah. This design makes no sense. These whole chapters make no sense.
And there's like a bust of her head. Well, that's what a bust is. But like a bust of Marissa Fitz there. I guess that's what you would go there to see. But also there's like roving guards. So
I assume the guards are only there at night.
Yeah.
But that does seem strange because it is a graveyard or a cemetery.
Yeah. Like, who are these guards? 9-year-olds? Like, what are they guarding from who?
Yeah, I don't know.
But whatever. Like, the whole point is that this is a clandestine, illegal choice that Lockwood and Co. has made to infiltrate the tomb, which is fun. It's a great way to start the book.
It is fun, but like there's no reason for them to be there.
No. And like Skull immediately points that out to them. He's like, I told you what's happening. There's no reason to do any of this.
But not even that. But like Marissa's body could have been there and it still wouldn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they had found her body there, like Skull didn't say, oh, she's made her body immortal somehow. He said, no, that doesn't look like her, but her spirit is in there. So It wouldn't have mattered if they had found her body. Everything would still be the same.
That's true.
So why are they doing this other than Stroud wanted a fun little opening adventure that didn't matter to the plot at all?
Yeah. So it shows all of them trying to like, they're all like feeling along the floor and everything. And Kipps is there playing lookout, and they are all getting tired of this because they've been at it for a long time.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you think the goggles, like what level of sight do you think the goggles give a person? Was it the sight you always had? Is it like really good sight, like Lockwood's?
Yeah, I think it's like Lockwood. I think you're like you 20/20 ghost vision. Yeah.
20/20 ghost vision. Okay, cool. I was just curious what you thought.
It's implied that like sight is a male talent and then listening is a female talent. But we don't know that Kipps had sight necessarily. But I don't assume that he has his power back. I just assume it's like better than it ever was.
I mean, presumably Holly has sight. Like, I've always thought that Holly's sight would be not great, but better than Lucy's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. It does seem like she sees the stuff and doesn't have to look out the corner of her eye the way that Lucy does. There's a lot of like fun bickering among everybody here. We're like, get back into the group vibe. Yeah. Introduces everybody in case you've started at the end of the series for some reason. Like your aunt gave you a book for your birthday and has no clue what she's doing.
These things happen. And we see Kipps call the Skull tame and kind of treat Skull like a pet. which I love that that's become the vibe.
It's
Skull
cool
hates
that
it,
they can't hear
obviously.
him. He's
Yeah.
very upset about it.
Yeah. We get like a whole page of him yelling insults about it. It's great.
I really like this book. I think that it does, like, a lot of my favorite things in the series happen in this book too. Like, he's gotten really good at telling stories with these characters, right? Obviously. But I also think that this book indulges in the things that we've complained about the most, a lot. And so, like, right away we start getting fat jokes about George. Yeah, that he's like a beluga whale swimming by and stuff like that. And there's a lot of that in this book. And Lucy kind of goes back to some of her woman hating, and there's like the implicit stuff about, like, if you're beautiful, you're bad. That's been happening in earlier books too.
Yeah, when she sort of describes how Holly looks here, she's like, I won't even talk about it.
Yeah. It's
You know, and then
exasperating how perfect she is.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's like, oh, we're doing that again? I thought we were kind of past this. And I get it. Like, that is a thing about Holly. Like, she is kind of like, she can be chic in anything. And that is a thing about her. But it's also like...
Yeah, but Holly, good Lord, that didn't take long. Lucy could have said, yeah, Holly looked great because she can make anything look great. But also, she's a great agent, so... You know what I mean? Like, it could have been said in a different way that wasn't Lucy just dismissive of it. And, like, she's not mean about it, but it still comes out in that way of, like, pretty can't be good.
Mm-hmm. The highs are high in this book. The lows are low for me. When I reread it for the show, I was like, oh man, some of this stuff, he's just like this. In a lot of ways, this book is the most Lockwood and Co. book out of all of them.
I agree. Well, actually, I didn't reread before. I didn't reread the whole book, just these chapters. So I will be surprised.
Like, you were surprised that the chapter was happening at all because you didn't remember it. So,
Yep.
They do eventually, basically they're stumped. They don't know how they're going to get into the lower chamber. They can't find the trapdoor, and they have to ask for help from Skull.
Yeah, which is fine and great. And I really love the conversation that he and Lucy have. And it does really set up that Skull's number one thing is being let out of his jar.
Right.
You know, which has definitely come up before, but you really get the sense from these chapters that he is determined now. He's like, let me out or I won't help anymore. Which is not true. He does continue to help, but it sets it up that that's what he really, really wants.
No, you're right. You're right. I highlighted here actually when it's the whole thing between him and Kip's calling him tame. He says, tell that boggle-eyed fool that if I was out of this prison, I'd suck the flesh off his bones and dance a hornpipe with his empty skin. Just you tell him that. And so, like, it's not only the, like, let me out. It's, there's an there's an explicit, like, threat of violence around him getting out, which is, you know, like, that's always been there. He's talked about getting out for as long as he's been talking. But I think there's, like, a clear arc in this book to be like, if I was out, I'd be violent. If I was out, I'd be violent. And then where we end up with that whole thing is like a journey.
Yeah. And then, so eventually the Skull says, no, there is something. You are all just blind. And so they all jump up to where the Skull is, which is also where Kip's is. And so I don't understand why Kip's wasn't looking for these things. Yeah. Like, he was literally doing nothing. I thought we'd move past all this, Kip's.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be, like, looking out the door to make sure that no guards are coming, I guess.
Or ghosts, because he's got the goggles on. But still, I don't know. It seems... And also, they were just, like, combing the floor, and nobody saw this double flagstone situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This all just seems like nonsense. But the whole conceit of these chapters is nonsense. Yeah. So, whatever. Let's go with it.
It's a little Dungeons and Dragony. You failed your check your perception check.
Except, like, they're not acting like they failed. Like a failed check is supposed to represent the idea that you're distracted or thinking about something else or something. But there's like 5 of them or 4 of them, whatever, on their hands and knees, combing every single flagstone, like going into... It doesn't make sense that they missed it. It just doesn't.
Yep, but there's 2 flagstones, one set inside of another. They immediately are like, oh, this is where it is. And then they get to work taking it apart. There is a funny thing here of Skull accusing Lucy of skullism.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like racism or sexism.
But skullism.
She doesn't believe him about his claim about Penelope Fitz being Marissa Fitz, and the whole reason they're here makes no sense to him. It must be discrimination.
I love imagining all these conversations they're having from the rest of the points of view where they just hear Lucy. Because sometimes she'll just say things like, leave Kips alone, or blah, 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 blah. And you'd think Kips would be like, wait, what? What is he saying about me?
But yeah, I think Holly is the one who spots this. Lockwood and Kips get the whole thing lifted out of the way, and then they find the ring that pulls up the trap door, and then boom, we're headed down the stairs.
Yes. And they have some talk about whether or not they should go down there. And I only bring this up because Kips calls Skull Lucy's best friend.
Yeah.
In that conversation, and Lucy does not deny it. I mean, she doesn't acknowledge it either, but best friends.
They really are best friends, though.
Yeah. So then they're like, all right, let's go down the stairs. And George is like, there might be traps. And everyone sort of whips their head around to look at him like, what? I was like, there might be traps. I don't know. Probably not. Seems far-fetched.
It's D&D jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently legend has it that she trapped her mausoleum for some reason.
The National Monument.
Yeah. It was in her will to, like, please lay traps to kill people who would defile my grave. I guess if you're rich, you could do this.
But also open it to the public so that they can come pay their respects because I'm an important person.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
I don't understand how nobody took a couple steps back from these chapters and went,
I love the idea of, like, I'm just trying to think in American terms, like you go to the Washington Monument, but if you went in the wrong part, you would get like crushed by a rock fall or something that's like built in. And George Washington was like, please don't let anybody, I want there to be a monument, but I also want it to kill people if they go to the wrong place, please.
Right.
It's pretty weird.
All right. Chapter 2. I mean, they head down the stairs.
They do decide to go down the stairs despite everything. Yeah.
And then chapter 2.
In chapter 2, the coffin is opened and a wax facsimile of Marissa is revealed.
And the chapter at this time is the coffin with the Fitz unicorn on top.
Yep.
And it looks like
hands?
Broken... I thought torches, maybe?
They might be lavender.
Oh, that makes sense. Like little bunches of lavender and stuff. That makes sense. So they head down, and I like this because Lockwood is at the front, and he's actually, like, going slow and looking for traps and stuff. Not his usual.
Yeah. We do get, like, a kind of quick rewind from Lucy to be like, hey, this is kind of how we got here from the previous book. We, like, have been scoping out the place for a long time. This is like a whole heist thing has happened. It's very like the Great Train Robbery. Like they steal a key and make an impression and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and it's also very, maybe you read book 4 over a year ago and need a refresher.
Yeah, right.
Like we're reminded that Penelope forbidded?
Sure.
The past tense of forbid is forbade, and I hate forbade. It's just like a bad word.
Forbidden.
I don't like it. That Penelope Fitz told them they weren't allowed to talk about all this, and she kind of is in charge of the entirety of London, if not England, at the moment.
Right.
So
She's consolidated all
the
of the
Fitz
other
and Rotwell agencies, which are the two biggest. So she's kind of got a little child army.
Mm-hmm. It's like Disney going around, like consolidating all. They're buying Fox, they're buying this one, they're book publishers. They want to be the one media company, and that's what Marissa's doing, or Penelope's doing, or whoever she is.
One propaganda company, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, she gives us all of this kind of quick backstory and then heads back to actually going down the stairs.
Yes.
And I guess you could take this in the previous book, but this is like really explicitly said here. And I found it important because I was like, oh, I really needed to be told this in a flat way for me to actually understand it. She says, our experiences on the other side had indicated that there was a strong connection between the activity of spirits, in particular their keenness to return to our world, and the presence of living persons on the other side.
That does sort of feel like Stroud finished book 4 and was talking to his editor, and his editor said, no, you need to say this plainly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, some people might get it and some people might not. Please just say it plainly.
That just by crossing over, it causes the ghosts to come to our world. There
Which
doesn't
was the
really
whole
have to be much more.
conceit of that town.
Yeah.
But again, it was never stated plainly. You're right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So now that you pointed out, yeah, that's interesting.
This is a key component to understanding how the problem started, which this whole book will get into later. So you got to lay it out early. And it was there, like you said, in the previous book, if you're paying attention. But if you're me, it's nice to have him hold my hand and be like, this is what's happening.
It's not even about paying attention. It's just about, I don't even know how to describe it. Because when you pointed that line out, it didn't feel like new information to me. But you're right. I had never thought that to myself. You know what I mean? So It wasn't like I didn't know it, but I'd also never thought it. I cannot explain the feeling, apparently.
No. I think when you're saying this, it kind of like, and maybe this is because earlier off mic, we were talking about putting together a puzzle, but it does feel like the puzzle piece is like right in the right spot. And then you just kind of like press it down. It just feels like that. It just feels like it was there anyway. And then it just kind of like slots right in.
Yeah. And if anything, it makes kind of the plot of book 4 make a little bit more sense.
Totally. Yeah. So that's all really good. I think all this information, and it's not this, none of this is clumsy, like this going back. I think it's the way that he does it in every book too. And it's just very like fluid and feels right. And then immediately get back to the tension of, are we going to die on the stairs?
Yeah. As much as I keep harping on about how these chapters make no sense, they are written very well. They're very readable, for lack of a better term. There's good action. We just keep going. All the conversation is fast paced and witty, and dialogue, I suppose I should say. Yeah, it's all fun. And it feels like you're back with the characters that you love. And we get a good amount of Skull, which I always like. And
it's so good.
And we get glimpses throughout all 3 chapters of where Lucy and Lockwood are at, which I really like. Like, nothing is said explicitly, but I can imagine that a lot of people, that's what they were looking for when they first started this book and picked it up. I have no memory of what I was thinking, other than I read the rest of the series through the library, and then this book was the only one that had a weight on it, and I was like, well, screw that, and I bought it.
I'm not waiting for that.
Yeah. But just the way that they keep sort of looking over at each other and smiling, which does come up in a minute, and sort of checking in with each other. Like, you're very clear that they are on the same page.
Yeah, in a way that I don't think they have been for the entire series. Yeah. They're very in tune. I think that's right.
In tune. That's a good way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah.
And I do like the glimpses of it that we get. Anyways, back to walking down the stairs. This is the first sort of bit where Lucy smiles over at Lockwood, which is immediately made fun of by Kipps, which is great. And And just before that, Skull is complaining about how long it's taking. And so just after that, Skull just yells, "Hurry it up," at Lucy, which not only
Scares
startles her, but like
Yeah.
it's like a psychic outburst. That must feel strange. And so she startles and then jabs her candle into Holly's neck, which must hurt. And then there's like dominoes down the stairs.
Yeah. Lockwood is on point, so he's the last domino, and so he goes tumbling down the stairs while Skull is laughing about the whole thing. So
And Kips is behind Lucy, so I assume he was just standing there like, what just happened?
Right, yeah.
Like,
just blinking and looking around like, what? Why did this happen?
yeah.
It's pretty great. Yeah, it reminds me of the whole water bottle thing, kind of. It's that same kind of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Skull's like, like she gets mad at Skull for a minute, and she's just like, I can't help it. I'm excitable.
Yeah.
I had to break the tension. And now we know those last 12 steps are safe because
He tested them
went
out.
down them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Except that then they find a trap. And that has never made sense to me. Like, where is the trap?
There's also like a thing that doesn't really make sense to me, and all of this is fine. I'm not actually complaining. But like
I'm complaining.
Okay.
I'm not. Never.
When they're going down the stairs, the walls drop away and there's no railings. So that's why Lucy is so tense, right? And then when Skull yells, that she freaks out. And the stairs are narrow, or at least that's how I imagine them. So they could fall off either side, and you get the sense that it's like some kind of bottomless pit, except it's like they do get to the bottom. And so is there just like a hole back there where the stairs were, or is the floor there? You know what I mean? Like,
yep. But it has to be
confusing.
It has to be deeper than the floor because that's the only way that what Lucy does later makes any sense.
Right. And yeah, exactly.
So, like, who designed this place? The design of this place is insane.
Yeah, Marissa designed it, and it's insanity. Like, I understand that she doesn't want anybody to find out what they find out, and like that's part of the point of this stuff, but it's also like, who did she commission to design it? What did they think? Did she have them killed afterwards so they couldn't pass on the information or have suspicions, or like it's all just nonsense?
If she didn't want anybody to find this out, why wouldn't the story have just been that she cremated her body?
Right. Yeah. So
done
much
and
easier.
Done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that doesn't make sense. These stairs also make no sense because the falling, and then where is the trap? Because later on, some of them go back up the stairs while Lucy and Lockwood stay at the bottom and have like a conversation and then fight a ghost for a bit. And then they go up the stairs to the others coming back down the stairs.
Right.
Because they trigger that trap. But that timing makes no sense if the trap is right there.
At the bottom.
The
in
trap
the last
needs to
12
be
steps. Yeah.
near the top. But
Yeah.
they're past the top. Like, nothing makes sense.
Yeah, and why, when you trigger that trap, would it come up behind you? That kind of doesn't make sense. You'd be moving away from it. That's not a good way, given where the source is. Yeah, it's all weird, but whatever. Like it feels very D&D to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all just like whatever. There are traps here, and I will make the traps go off in a narrative way that like maximizes tension. It's not like I pre-planned they're exactly in this spot.
Then that's just like bad D&D.
I guess.
With a lazy DM.
Yeah.
Make your traps make sense, people.
But they do get to the room there is like this big, I think of it as like a big marble slab. I can't remember what he says. It says like Fitz on it, and then it's got the silver coffin on it with the rampant unicorn.
And George mentions that that's the special coffin in which she supposedly lay in state 3 days in Westminster Abbey, with mourners filing by. Very much like royalty. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I noticed that too. which I only know about that because of the Queen dying. But
Me too, but I assume English people would have picked up on that.
They would have known, yeah.
Yeah. It's mostly interesting to me because we never hear anything about the royal family in these books.
That's true.
I assume they fled. They got the heck out. They took their money and were like, England is yours, bitches.
We're going back to Germany.
Oh, jeez. If that is really where the problem started and is the worst, whether or not it's elsewhere, like why rich people would just leave.
I guess.
Except for those who got rich because of the problem.
Because of the problem, yeah. I thought, like when you said that, I was just thinking about like all their kind of imperial trophies and stuff, and that would all be haunted and they were killed.
That would be more fun, that they were all killed before we knew how to deal with the problem. I say fun, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I get
some people feel ways about the British royal family. That's fine. I don't. They can die. Whatever. I don't know them.
It would be quote unquote tragic in the backstory of the problem that the royal family all died.
The fact that they never come up at all does make me feel like that's what Stroud was thinking, but his British editors were like, please don't.
You can't say that. Yeah.
Not that you can't, but like, let's just not put that in a children's book.
Right. Yeah, he gives a whole breakdown of this thing. It's an Edgar and Soames special, blah, 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 blah. I love that he knows all the, like he knows, it's a V8 engine with, like all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, they've practiced this part of the whole heist at home, like treating their couch like the coffin. They're able to kind of pit crew this thing and like under 30 seconds, they've got it wrapped up in chains and they're ready for whatever's going to happen.
Yeah. When they go to open the coffin, Lockwood's like, okay, this is my job. And I think that that's just some nice character growth.
Yeah.
Because there's no bickering over who's opening the door. Lockwood is just like, this one's me. I don't know. I thought that was really good.
Yeah. I agree.
And then him and Lucy have one of their little moments.
Oh, do they? I must have missed this.
She looks at him and says, move fast. And he looks back at her. He smiles back at her and says, always.
Oh, right.
And
right.
Again, it's nothing. It's literally nothing. But it really just shows how, I don't know, this new communication with them.
No, I think that's right. Yeah. They can talk without talking and all that. And it's real because in the other books, sometimes Lucy would have this same kind of feeling, but there was like this, and then Lockwood would do something that showed he's not on that wavelength. Right. And she would be like, oh, we're perfectly in sync. And then he would be like, well, I'm getting out of the car and leaving you without saying anything. And then she'd be like, oh, but now it's like real. They really are in sync. So, yeah. And there's the moment before he does all this, it says like, if the Skulls story was true, the coffin would be empty, which made me think of like,
no, it wouldn't.
Which
Not
made me think of
necessarily.
like the name of the book is The Empty Grave. And so I think the first time I read this, I was like, oh, this is the empty grave right up front. Of course, because if the grave is empty, like it proves that, oh man, that's so smart. And then it's not empty, I think is kind of like a really fun inversion. Like he's setting you up a little bit to do a switcheroo that is more powerful.
I think the empty grave does refer to more than one thing, and the fact that Marissa is not in this grave is one of the empty graves.
Yeah.
But it is more about the other one that we see later, definitely.
Yeah. They literally call that one the empty grave over and over, and I'm like, oh, that's what it really is. But yeah, I agree. There's multiple meanings, and I think he knows that. I think he's kind of playing with it here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because I think these chapters are silly and stupid doesn't mean there's not good writing within them.
It's kind of fun to be silly and stupid right at the beginning. And a bunch of the books do that too. Like when they're in the graveyard and in the second book and stuff.
Absolutely. I love a good silly and stupid.
Yeah.
These are implausible, I suppose, is what I should have said.
It's really weird. It is really weird.
None of this makes any sense. I love silly and stupid when it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised there's not like the thing from Indiana Jones on this grave where you take the sandbag and put it on and take the other thing off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it feels like that.
Even like when they were finding the flagstone, that felt very like when they're in the library in Last Crusade.
100%.
I literally thought X marks the spot to myself.
Yeah. So yeah, they they open this thing up and there is a body in there.
Skull lied. What a liar.
He lied. Yeah. Immediately we don't trust him. He's like, give me an explanation. He's like, I can't be here. Okay. Like there's a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah. There's all the silver and iron and stuff. And he's just like,
listen, dummies, anything could be in there. Why would it be empty? He's basically saying what you've been saying. Like that has nothing to do with what I said. Okay. So I never said it was empty. Just go take a look and figure out what's going on. And so Lockwood does go back up there and pulls Marissa's face off.
That's more of what I was talking about. I feel like in book 2, he would have made George do it.
Yeah.
So he goes and does it. He takes the face off. It's not real. There's a different dead body or something underneath it.
Yeah. Well, they figure out it's wax. The whole thing is wax.
Oh, right. I guess I'm jumping ahead. They don't know that there's a different dead body underneath it. Yeah. It's just like a wax sculpture.
Yep.
That's what they think it is. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like she hired Madame Tussaud to make a wax corpse of her and then probably killed her so that she could never tell on her.
Open her chain of creepy dolls.
Right. Yeah.
Thank God.
So yeah, they all have a laugh about it. Boy, are we dumb. Like she really isn't here. It's crazy. Break out the chocolate and coffee. And then this thing starts to sit up and come after them. I think it's a pretty terrifying and effective surprise.
Nobody likes dolls that come alive. Again, It reminds me, I brought this up, I think in book 3, but that scene in Ghostbusters, the women Ghostbusters with the mannequins.
Oh, yeah.
Where what's-her-face is just like, nope.
It's a lot like that, yeah.
Anyways, so then there's also like a debate about where is she and how if this is enough evidence for them to go public. And then debates about what's that police agency, DPRAC, and blah, 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 blah.
Right. Are they in on it? Can they even go to the cops because they would be under her control? Is this enough evidence? So it's these are the same arguments we've been having for every book, right? All this proves to them is that Skull was right and that she probably somehow is Penelope equals Marissa. Somehow.
Yeah. And then, yes, the mannequin sits up and and ghost fog pours from the coffin.
Yeah. Man.
Creepy.
It's good.
It's like it wasn't creepy when you walked in here, but we're going to make it creepy. Yeah. Although, presumably, there's 2 bottomless pits not far from them.
It's really...
On either side of the staircase.
I guess.
I don't know, man.
When you build the mausoleum, I have a hard time with that word, apparently. I need there to be 2 100-foot deep pits dug in it on either side of the staircase. And they're like, so you want railings on there too? No railings.
Like deep but thin.
Right. Yeah. Could you put spikes at the bottom? Like it's so weird.
Chapter 3. Lockwood and Co. retreat from the revenant in Marissa's tomb.
Yeah. And I think in the previous chapter, George was like, it's a revenant.
Yeah, he does yell that at some point, yes.
Yeah.
The art.
Yeah.
It's definitely like the staircase.
Yeah.
And a rapier. And a ghost.
It was like a shadow of a ghost on a wall, I think.
That could, yes. I did say ghost/shadow in my note here. I just didn't communicate that to you. You should have known.
I should have. Yeah. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
You knew that.
But what this is actually supposed to be depicting from the chapter, like I get that it's the race up the stairs or something, but it looks like the rapier is trapped in that ghost. Like they stabbed him and it got stuck in his flesh, but he doesn't have flesh.
No, that is what happens. That is what happens.
Oh, does that happen every... I always pictured they swung the rapier and it went through the ghost, not...
No, it's stuck in the wax. So, like, yeah, when
I was
Lockwood goes
thinking
to make
this
his
was
attack.
okay, I was thinking this was the other ghost. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's on the stairs. So I just... Okay. This
And
makes
then
so
when
much
it
more
comes
sense.
after them up the
Yes.
steps, I think that's what this is.
It's still there. Okay.
It's still
My
in
brain
it,
got
yeah.
there. Thank you. Sometimes when we're in action paragraphs, my eyes have a habit of just like, yeah, action, gotcha. So I
Well,
don't take it all in.
it's
It's not
also
even like a choice
confusing.
that I make.
It's confusing because Lockwood does that, but then later he's fighting the other ghost with a different sword. And so, like,
I assume he stole it from Kips.
yeah, he took
he
somebody
was
else's
like,
sword.
you're no good with this.
You'll just get stabbed in the butt. Give me that sword. Yeah. So, yeah, Lucy laments how they had all chilled out and were like,
Deeply unprepared for anything to
yeah,
happen.
when this ghost popped out there, it was a jump scare. But yeah, they tried to, do they even fight back? I think they're just like, they just retreat
Yeah,
immediately.
they just run.
Yeah. They do throw some flares at it, which is crazy because they're in such a tiny room. And so the sound and light are very stunning to them as well as the ghost.
Tiny room with bottomless pit.
Right.
But yeah, then eventually Lockwood is like, everybody up the stairs, go quickly as possible. Forget the iron, hit it with your flares and then run, basically.
Right.
This is where it's Lockwood that says, a revenant, gotta be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's where I got that from.
Lucy can hear the ghost saying Marissa Fitz's name over and over again. And then Lockwood says, fall back to the stairs.
Yeah, they talk about how it's able, like, how can it move? And they're like, it's not moving its body. The wax is just on the bones. It's moving itself, blah, blah, blah. It's very creepy to imagine. Like, I think it's really effective. And this would be cool to see. Yeah, she tells them it's calling for Marissa. And, like, so we know that there's some kind of connection between whoever this is and Marissa, which is an important idea. We don't know why they're calling that out, but Holly's like, yeah, I'd be grumpy too if I was killed and coated in wax and buried in a coffin with that woman's mask strapped to my face. So, like, yeah, it probably does have a reason to be pissed off at Marissa.
Okay, now that I'm thinking about this, it doesn't make sense. Which is
Yeah?
kind of the mantra of these chapters. But, like, we've never seen a ghost... Like, it would just pass through the wax.
And it does that later.
So it's...
So it doesn't
So
need
it's
to be tied to this thing.
Doesn't need to. That means it's choosing to.
Right.
But that means it's possessing the wax? Like,
Yeah. I also had this. I think if you look up, so I don't have a glossary, but I think if you look up Revenant as like the category of ghost, it does have something to do with the bones.
Hold on. A rare variety of type 2 in which can temporarily animate its own corpse and cause it to break free of its grave. Okay.
Right.
So the
that's why
bones
he
are in
says it
there.
must
It's
be.
animating the bones.
Yeah.
And the wax is around the bones. Gotcha. I'm on the right page now. Yeah, so Lockwood has everybody else run up the stairs. Lucy stays behind, and he's like, you too, Luce. And she's like, I know you're going to do something stupid. I can tell. And then he says, that makes two of us. What's your crazy plan?
This is so cute.
Yeah.
Adorable. It's good to see them trusting each other. They accept how each other is. Yeah, he's going to cut off its legs. She's going to have a conversation. We're so similar. It's adorable. I love it.
Yeah. And then he says, you better go first, which is nice because previous books he's been like, don't you ever talk to a ghost.
Right.
You kill the ghost and that's all. So it's nice to see that. And then she does trying to talk to the ghost, but it again just says Marissa.
Right.
And she's like, we can help you. We can avenge you. We are enemies of Marissa. And he's just like, Marissa. Anyways, and then eventually Lockwood says, it's my turn.
Yeah, the thing is getting too close. She wants another second with it, which is like the classic.
Lucy
She's
getting
in too
deep. Yeah.
And the thing moves so fast suddenly that Lockwood doesn't have the chance to strike the way that he wanted to, and the sword gets stuck in its waxy chest. So, and then he loses the sword because it just like runs away with he kicks it, doesn't he? Yeah, he kicks it, and then they turn around and run.
I don't even think a rapier could cut off its legs because rapiers aren't sharp on the sides, right? They're pointy.
Yeah, I don't know. His plan was weird because I was like, yeah, you're gonna break through all the wax and the bones, separate the bones.
Having said that, why in the world would agents use like competition rapiers? Never mind. I'm sure it's sharp. I'm picturing the ones from the show. They were sharp. They were just thin.
A little bit more saber-ish.
Yeah. They run up the stairs. They do have that moment where she's like, "You were gonna cut off his legs. How did that go?" After he says, "You almost got yourself killed," and yeah, they're like, "This is what I'm saying about how the timing of the stairs make no sense, because this is when they're running up the stairs and they're having a conversation, and then after that, the others come running down because they set off the trap. It makes no sense."
Yeah. They're like, "It's another ghost." And
we're sandwiched between ghosts.
Where did that come from? And like, George triggered the wire. Like, how could you? He was like, "I was thinking about something else." He's like, "How could you be thinking about anything else?"
I hate, like, it's always George. Like, that really pisses me off.
He's the butt of the joke. It's just, like hijinks. It's just like high adventure. It is fun though. Like, I was grinning through the whole thing.
Yeah, it's true. If we weren't like deep diving into this, I wouldn't care about any of this.
Yeah, I'm not really complaining about this. But it is like very weird when you try to break it down. I don't know that any of this would make it into the show the way that it is. It's a little Scooby-Doo, right? Going up the stairs and down the stairs, and we're getting sandwiched, and Lockwood is like, "What are we, Bunchurch and Co? Give me that sword." He takes George's sword. Leaps over the tripwire.
I wish he'd taken Kip's. Would have been funnier.
And then he starts trying to fight this ghost, but almost dies because the ghost is like some kind of wind ghost that almost blows him off the steps. Pretty smart to put that thing where there's the no railing steps and bottomless pit. So
yes. But then the skull is like, "Maybe you should find its source, you idiot. You're a ghost hunter."
But when Skull comes back, all this is happening, and then Skull's like, "So," its voice said casually, "How's it going?" He knows. Yeah. He knows exactly how it's going.
And he's like, "I've been gone 5 minutes, and you've managed to trigger 2 ghosts and get sandwiched between them on the edge of an abyss."
Yeah.
Man, Skull is sometimes extremely right.
He's great.
You're all a bunch of losers, and you need me.
He's like, "I don't know, maybe use your brain." Yeah. So he's like, the ghost must have a source, find the source, take care of the problem.
And yeah, Lucy finds the false teeth, the weirdest source, and then chucks it over the edge into the abyss, as Skull called it, which works and pulls the ghost away from them. So it must be pretty deep.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So then they continue and run outside, and the guards aren't there. Luckily for them.
Despite explosions and screaming and
yeah,
whatever else is happening, yeah. There's the worst. They probably are 7-year-old night watch kids who are like, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, minimum wage.
Right.
Like, we were in the bathroom. Which, fair enough. So then they run outside and shut the door, but the door is, of course, just cement or stone, not iron or silver or anything, so the ghost does just come outside.
Yeah. Skull is like, that's silver lined or iron, or because everybody's like, "Woo, we made it." And then no, the thing like comes up. It's very cool the way that he describes it. It's very easy to visualize it.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues, the tension and danger in a good way.
And then I do like that when this happens, Lucy just kind of is like, wait, I was talking to him wrong before. I know what I gotta do.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't say that. You just kind of get it.
Yeah, because she stops asking him. She's like, yes. She starts to affirm him instead. To be like, yes. What about Marissa Fitz? Yes. And the ghost does iterate, and he says, "Bring her to me," and then he like vanishes. So, in a way, he hires them, I guess.
That's what Lucy says here. Yeah, like,
yeah.
Have we ever had a ghost client before? Because I think we've just been given a job.
And so that's like a clever inversion of the whole conceit of, what these books are and everything. And a cool, fun way to start off the final book, that there's somebody out there who has a grudge with Marissa and wants to see her personally, and that person is dead.
I like that. I don't want to like start talking about the ending now, but that doesn't get as much of a payoff as I would have wished,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see how it would have, but I think it would have been kind of fun if they did somehow lure her there.
Yeah.
Or something like that, or
it's not like that at all.
No, it's not. Yeah. But I don't know. It's fun. Now they're gonna have to look into Marissa Fitz, which they weren't gonna do previously.
Right. Yeah. It's true that you didn't have to do all this to do the thing that we were going to do anyway. It is like a, big action set piece to kick off the book. It's exciting and it shows fun. The team dynamics and lets us catch up with everybody.
I do just think it could have been better with sense.
It is crazy to have an Indiana Jones tomb as a national monument. That's a crazy idea.
Do you have a joke?
There is probably the thing that made me laugh out loud was actually the thing that you pointed out in a sweet way, where Lucy is like, how poised and grateful he was. Grateful.
Oh, and
how poised and graceful he was. His presence gave me courage. Even in a place like this, I smiled at him. He couldn't see me, of course. It didn't matter. You all right, Lucy? That was Kip's at my shoulder. Got gas or something? No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I have to assume that Kip's knows and is going to do
100%.
Everything in his power to mess with them.
100%. Yeah.
Because there's a couple instances in this book where Kip's is like, what are you two fools doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's Big Brother energy of like messing with their whole situation. Yeah. So that was fun. I liked the idea of her, like this very sweet moment. And then he's like, do you have gas? That's pretty funny to me. Do you have a joke?
Not really. I mean, Olive Skull, basically.
Yeah. And I complained about the George fat joke. I think that's not good.
Yeah, there's anything where George is kind of the butt of the joke in a physical way, it's just never funny.
I didn't mean to step on your skull joke.
No, I can't really. It's not really. I don't think he had like a one-liner or something that was great. Just all of his conversations with Lucy were really good. This isn't a joke, but I really did love Kip's calling him Lucy's best friend. And then Lucy not correcting that. Because in the previous book, she would have said, no, he's not my friend. He's just this evil skull.
And I think he's not, I think he is saying that as like a needling thing to her, and it doesn't hit the way that he thinks it does.
Yeah.
I like that shows like there's been growth and stuff and everybody getting more comfortable with who they really are. That's one of the things about this book that I really like, is that when we start, it feels like all of the evolution that's happened in the previous books, they've really like grown into these people. We don't have to do this growth in this book. We just blast off into we're just doing this thing.
As the worst thing that any fiction can do is have character development and then take it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that there's no real interpersonal drama in this. Everyone's on the same page, on a good page. Everyone's good in this. Yep. Like maybe they're not like done. You know what I mean? We haven't reached the end or the goal or whatever of their character stories, their relationship stories. But there's no fighting. There's no...
That's why that little moment with Holly kind of stuck out to us, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Because it did sort of feel like a bit of a backtrack.
Yeah.
But their relationship is still good, even if Lucy is thinking bad things.
Yeah.
So
So I think that's like one of the best things about this book is we just like hit the ground running with all of they're a team. We don't have to do that. Like, boom. And we just like the full power of the team being brought to bear against this situation, which is a lot of fun to watch that happen. It feels like a big payoff.
And I feel like other stories could take a like advice from this, that you don't need there to be a big conflict between the characters for the story to still be engaging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like maybe some writers aren't that good. I don't know, but this book works without a big conflict within the agency.
Yeah, because I think a more typical thing would be for there to be all kinds of problems until the climax of the book, right? Almost like the Aikmir's thing, right? And then like, oh, here's the climax. We've come together and solved our differences, and that allows us to solve the larger conflict with the antagonist because we united.
That's the overall story of the series.
Yeah. But not this book.
But not this book. And it works.
Yeah, it really works. That's the best thing about this book, I think.
Yeah. Was there a punk rock? I kind of feel like no. I mean, breaking into a national monument in general. So all of them, I guess.
It's pretty punk rock, yeah.
Yeah.
Just the plan. But it goes so not punk rock. It's not cool what everything that happens, but it's fun, I guess, yeah.
The guards abandoning their station. That's kind of
That's
punk
pretty
rock.
punk rock, yeah. I'd like to think they're all taking a vote to form a union right now. This is what's happening.
Yeah. It was changing of the guard time and they all stopped for a smoke break.
Right. They're all 7-year-olds.
Like every time you bring it up, they get younger.
Yep. So next time we will go into part 2 and probably do like 2 chapters or something.
Part 2 is kind of a lot.
Yeah, a lot happens.
I refuse to say the name of part 2 as it is French. And you know my feeling on French.
We'll say it in like the flattest Midwestern accent.
That'll be up to you. You'll have to say the name of part 2.
Yeah.
I feel like 98% of me joking about how much I hate French is off mic.
Yeah,
and then just like a smidgen of it creeps on mic with zero context of this like years long joke between the two of us.
No one knows. Like, so
much
weird.
I hate French.
Why does she hate the French? It's not about the French even. Like the France French. It's them too, but
to do with them. It's the layers of insults that I've had to be subjected to throughout my life as a Canadian. Okay, wait, here's an interesting thought. We're recording this on February 16th. I almost said February 2nd. That's not right.
Yeah. Try to make us look like we're keeping our promises.
Yeah, well, no. We're recording this on February 16th. Before we're done this book, it is entirely plausible that our countries could be at war.
I know, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Do we finish the podcast if America invades Canada?
Yeah, who knows, right? Yeah, what do we do?
What a serious question that I just like, what? No.
It's insane.
Are we allowed to be friends if our countries are at war? I don't know how that works in modern times. Like, if anybody is listening from Ukraine, did you have friends in Russia online? And did you still have friends afterwards? Like, I don't, like, I get in like the 1950s and before, right? You just didn't talk to your friends and who were international, right? Or if you had family or something, you stopped writing letters. But what do you do now that you can just tweet someone?
I am not a pro-American person anyway, but like, yeah, it seems to me like we have become the evil empire. I mean, I've always felt we've been the evil empire, but now it's like
It's
we're
crazy.
mask off.
I've worked hard in the past couple years to be less pro-Canada because I don't know how to explain this, but growing up in Canada, it's not even that you're taught, it's just part of the culture to be pro-Canada because of how like our culture gets kind of swallowed by America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of fight against that by always saying that we're better than them, which we're like, it's really insidious, and I cannot explain it well, but it is just generally believed that Canada is better than America, in Canada, obviously, in ways that like are not true at all. Like, sure, we have healthcare and that stuff, but we still are a country of colonizers. You know, we still murdered the indigenous people.
It's pretty much the same, yeah.
Right?
History.
Like,
yeah.
We're not, and it's just. But there are so many times when we'll be talking about something like politics or culture-wise, and we'll just be like, well, at least we're not America. Like, that's been said over and over and over again in my family my whole life. And I've done a lot of work in the past couple of years to fight against that, to be like, no, Canada is just as fucking bad as America. Except now, everyone's going the opposite way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's gotten worse. I think now it's okay. Now you really can say that, and it's fine, I think.
It's just, and I've also done a lot of work about like pointing that out to my parents, you know, whenever they would talk about how much better we are than America, and I'd be like, in what way? And now all of that's ruined. All of my boomer coaching down the drain.
Yep. Yeah, who knows? I really hope that things stop. But who knows what's going to happen? It doesn't seem like it's going to. So.
Yeah. But if we do randomly stop before the end of this book, I guess that means our countries are at war. I don't know, man.
Right.
Where I live is probably not number 1 on the invasion list. It's probably number 2, honestly.
Yeah, that might be true. I feel like I owe the world an apology, but I'm not responsible for what happened. It sucks. It sucks. But yeah, I guess if we just vanish, that's what happened. We're on opposite sides of the battlefield.
Or like podcasting, the tariffs got to us somehow. I don't know.
Weird. Yeah.
We do this for free, but
yeah, how could we be? I wonder what we would be, a product of Canada or America. I wonder how would you tariff us?
Who set up our podcast hosting? The website is American, so it's American.
Squarespace,
but
is American.
This is the problem. This is why Canada and America have always had relatively open trade, because like everything's just like the same.
Yeah, it's all mixed up.
It's all smooshed. And presumably it's like that with Mexico too. Maybe less so.
It's so stupid to have like an international neighbor where you've never, ever, ever had problems. And then you'd be like, fuck you.
And with our wide open border.
For no reason.
I don't like, we have a street here where one side of the street is Canada and one side of the street is America. And there's what? Oh, jeez. Okay. It's wild. If you want to follow the show, you can on Twitter at Lockwood Podcast. I personally don't really use Twitter much anymore. I open it if I get an alert. So usually if Alan starts a conversation with someone.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've just been, after the election, I decided that we need to stockpile as much money as possible. And so I got a second job, and I'm not on there as much. That's part of the reason too why the podcast is a little bit late, because I just spend my weekends sleeping now. I work constantly.
Yeah, that sucks.
But I feel like it's necessary because I'm just a poor person, and so I don't think the future of my family is very secure in these times. So
he had to get that second job just to buy eggs.
that's right. That's all we do is we can buy one carton of eggs with my other paycheck. So
yeah, I don't know. My job is thankfully reliant on, like, I work for a utility company, so I'm probably not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's
or
not
my
going
job
anywhere.
is probably not going anywhere. So
If you were American, it'd be a different story. We would just fire you because that's what we're doing now. Yeah.
anyways, nobody cares. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Inferior Caitlin. I do use it the way that I used to use Twitter in 2011.
Yeah.
So it's really great, and maybe Lockwood and Co people should think about migrating over. I haven't looked at the Twitter community in a while, which used to be really good despite Twitter being garbage.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is still the case.
You can reach out to the podcast via email by using contact@holograndmedia.com, or you can go to our American tariffed website, holograndmedia.com, and scroll down to the contact form and fill that out.
And remember to always leave a wax sculpture of yourself behind for people to find.